All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my trick video for this week. Let me just adjust volume. Okay, we'll continue where we left off last time. We'll keep going with Taisha, and then we'll talk about the third trick of Taisha. So this is all the main variation. White goes into the corner, black gets out, and white connects. Black jumps. The correct move is always for you to play G2, but here we'll talk about the third trick that you can play in your game. That is to net your opponent at H5. So last two times we talked about G5. We also talked about G3 in the first video. So you can go back and check them out. Those are all very interesting tricks. Today's trick is even more tricky, I would say. Alright, so how does black deal with this? Black obviously cannot sacrifice the two stones. If he immediately counterattacks, as we can already see that these stones are in a very dangerous situation, likely they're going to die because they only have two liberties. So counterattacking from this direction is not going to work. If a black decides to attach at H4, that's also falling into the trick. So it seems like white has a lot of problems outside, but really there's no way for black to break out. So if you play out this one, white can just extend out. When black connects, white can block on top. It seems like white only has two liberties, but check how many liberties black has, right? Black has no liberties left. Black has only one liberty. So that would be game over right there. If black pushes out instead of connecting, white can Atari, and then Atari here. And then just keep Ataring, and then white is already out. There's no way for black to really catch white here. If you try something like this, you already don't have enough liberties because white has 3 and black only has 2. So the key point is that trying to break out from this direction is not going to work out. Well, what about the double Hane here? Well, turns out that white can Atari and then just patiently connect. Because black's liberty is very short here, he cannot do anything like extending at K3 because white has a Kosumi that can just kill. If black extends, there's also a Kosumi, right? So black just does not have time to capture these three guys because black will be captured first. So that's being said, these are not variations. They're not gonna work. We look at how to come out at G6. It's not gonna work. We look at attach at H4. It's not gonna work. If your opponent plays G3, white can just attach at H2. So if black tries to get out like this, white can peep first, and then just keep extending. And now black has to keep crawling on the second line. That's just very miserable because white doesn't have to kill black. White just needs to keep extending, and then there's a lot of influence towards the center. And all what black does is making 1 point at each move. So that's not acceptable for black. So that's being said, we look at a few options, and then there's no way. Seems like there's no good way for black to break out. So turns out that black's correct move is to turn at F3. So that's the way to counter the trick. White will follow up by jumping down at H3. Very aggressive. Black goes ahead and Hane and connect. This is threatening to kill the corner, so white has to make sure he's alive, and the only way for him to do that is to play B2. Black will turn here at B4 keep threatening, and then white will make a knight at c1. So now there's no way to really kill white here. So realize that if you play this one, white's gonna have an eye at b1. So it's really no way to kill. So black would rather just squeeze here, forcing white to make himself alive. So at this point, white's corner is shrinked into 3 points, which is a loss for white. But now it's black's turn to answer the question, how do you get your group out? If black attaches, this is not going to work. The cross cut is usually not going to work when your opponent has a jump shape outside. So the reason is that white can make a tiger's mouth here, right? And then white can Atari here. So there's no way for there's pretty much no way for black to try to get out, right? Like if you try to fight a ko like this, this is also a very, very difficult ko for black. So this attach and cut is not a great choice for black. Well, what about this one? Where can we play this one? It looks like a shape move, but turns out that white can just hold like this, right? When you extend, white can jump out. There's no problem. And if you hane here, I can Atari and then Atari. And the same reason, right? Like if you do this, I can just keep pushing out. So and black has to even watch this group, right, after all these moves. So those are not variations that are going to work for black. So what is the correct solution? And here it's pretty much a time for Tsuji, right? Like if you have done lots of life and death problems, I think this move should already come into your mind after my trial and error. So let's take a look. Before I talk about the move, I want to quickly point out that this Kusumi is interesting. But white now has a very nice move that is to attach at d8. Whenever black responds here, white can now seal black in like this with the help of the d8. So when black cuts, we can just extend out like this, right? There's no problem. When you connect, I can just block here. You cut, I can connect. I can just fight like this, and nothing outside is gonna die for white. Therefore, black is dead because there's no way out from this direction. And obviously, when you push this one, white can Atari first. When you connect, I can play out this. I can capture these 2 stones. Even if you can maybe make yourself alive with, like this. But first of all, there's already this problem. So you cannot even make yourself alive, right? But not to say that you've lost 2 stones here. So that's being said, this Kusumi is strong, but white can exchange here, right? Black extends or black hane and then connect. That's the same result. White will seal black in like this. So white always remember to exchange this first before you try to hane, because if you don't, when black cuts, this is quite hard to deal with for white. So white will attach here and then seal. If black decides to say, hey, I don't want to be sealed, well then this part of the this part will suffer from some problems. So as we can see, white is able to seal black in, and there's life and death problems in here for black. So let's say if black decides to play another move, we have a push. When you block, we have this attach. Black's only choice is to clamp, and then we have a ko, right? This is the only way that black can make a ko in the corner. So white will take. Whenever black connects, white connects. This is a dead shape. A little bit of life and death knowledge as well. So that's being said, at this point, if black does not want all that life and death problem, he's gonna play a move, and then white will extend and keep the pressure on this group. So this is a pleasant game for white moving on. So the Kosumi leads to a little bit of complication, but generally it's not a great choice for black. So now let's look at what can black do to break out. So black's first move is to wedge at h4. Super fancy move, and at this point it's very hard for white to continue. So let's say white decides to play g4. Black can push here at f5. That's a huge problem now, because if you take, I can just keep pushing. Then these guys are pretty much dead. If white decides to seal, that's probably even worse, because black can just turn here at Atari here at g5. When you seal on top, because of my wedge, now I can just extend out at j4. So when you connect, I can enclose you at j3, and then these three stones are absolutely dead. So Atari at g4 is not a great choice. White can just Atari from the outside. When black connects, white exchanges a move out here, but it doesn't really help because white is broken everywhere, right? So if white connects, black now has two choices. Black can attach out. This is very serious, and then there's no way really for white to seal. If you play this one, I can keep pushing. Look, there's a ladder here, right? I can Atari and ladder. I have the e9. So this is a Mii situation. Very hard for white to deal with. So that's one way you can play. You can play f6. I recommend you. But if you are more territorial, you can also cut at j3. And pretty much white is forced to play out this one, and then black is able to make himself alive. And there's cutting point over here, and there's still an attach over here at f6. That's also pretty good. So after white exchanges this one, white's best move is to prevent the weakness at g6. And now black can go ahead and cut, and then after a few exchanges, white will need to make another move to fix everything here. And now black can go ahead and play a move and also keep an eye on this cutting point at k4, because now the ladder is working for black. So white will constantly have to watch this weakness. But first of all, black has a lot of territory here, plus 7 points over here. So these two combined is like 13 points more than what white got in the corner. Plus black has 3 stones outside and a potential cutting point for white. So this is a very pleasant game for black. Moving on. Alright, so this is pretty much it for today's trick. We'll just quickly recap. So I don't recommend you to play this trick in a serious tournament or anything. It's more for casual stuff, right? This is to check if your opponent actually knows his stuff. So we play h5, you know, for fun, and then the reward being that if black tries any sort of counterattack here, this is not going to work. It's probably game over immediately, actually. So when black attaches, that's also a very terrible choice, because we can use a lot of brute force to sort of enclose black. Black has no way out. If he tries to get out like this, this is not going to work out, because we can just keep Ataring and then get ourselves out. And this is pretty much game over, because these guys have no way out, and then black has no way to capture any of the outside group. So the reward is quite huge if black plays like that. Yeah, so this is the variation for when black attaches, and we'll also briefly talk about the Kosumi. We can attach. All these are very aggressive, very aggressive moves. So you can just play out like this, and then your game will be totally fine. Your corner is fine. The outside is very strong. Black has 1, 2, 3. You can count them, and it's like very, very little points. Black's correct counter is to play f3. White will follow up, and then there will be a few exchanges in the corner. White makes himself alive, and then it's really time to test out Black's Tsuji, right? So the correct Tsuji, we said, is to wedge here. If White Ataris from the inside, we can break out like this, right? Like when White encloses, we can get ourselves out. And obviously, if White does anything like this, Black will come out. These guys are pretty much gone. This corner is super small, and then this flower is not doing much. So terrible game for White. So after the wedge, White will have to Atari from the outside. When Black connects, White's best move is to Kosumi. And then we can go ahead and play out this one. And then no problem moving on. Black has a lot of territory. Black has very fast development on the right side. Not sure what White's wall is gonna do, and White has also have to basically watch this K4 cutting point. So this trick will come with a penalty if your opponent plays perfectly. So nevertheless, it's quite famous trick in the Taisha. So we will need to cover that today as well. So this is the third trick inside Taisha, and for the next video we'll cover another one from Taisha. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.